Hello, everybody. Can you hear me there loud and clear? Hello. I hope you can. Hello. Hello. Okay, I think we're live here, folks, and we have got the Zandvoort Grand Prix, if you can believe it. It is here. It is going to happen now in approximately 5 minutes. The Zandvoort Grand Prix, first time we will race in the Netherlands for F1 since roughly about 35 years ago. So it's been quite a while, 3.5 decades, and we have a great race planned here, or a great race all set up. You're live here with myself, Tim Speed, at F1 TV Era, folks. That's the channel. As you know, my name is Tim Speed because I just said it, but if you didn't catch it, it's very nice to meet you. Zandvoort Grand Prix, a track very near to the beach. There was some problems earlier on in the week, or earlier on in the weekend, with some sand and stuff like that being blown onto the track, and a little bit of a problem with some wind. As we know, wind can be pretty bad, pretty effective on an F1 car, and can cause them to spin and stuff like that. So, is it windy today? I'm not quite sure actually. We have. I'm not sure how many laps we have actually. 14 turns anyway. Elevation of just under 9 meters. So pretty pretty extreme, I suppose, for a track in a supposedly flat country. Zandvoort. So the last time, obviously, the cars raced here, they were quite different. A little replay there of the likes of Nicky Lauda winning a race here, so that tells you how far back we go. Of course, the biggest thing about this track is obviously the elevation changes, but also the banking around the final corner and the banking in some other parts of the track. So we might see some slingshot corners. We have Verstappen on pole, obviously Hamilton not far behind him in second place. Valtteri Bottas is third. Gasly is fourth. Brilliant qualifying again from Gasly, I have to say. The Ferraris take the third row, 5 and 6, Leclerc, Pippin, Sainz. For the first time in a while, you'd have to say. Pretty decent qualifying from Antonio Giovinazzi, of course, in seventh, Ocon in eighth, Alonso ninth, and Daniel in 10th, the tops of the McLarens there. George Russell didn't make it to Q3, of course, he crashed. He's in 11th, first time he didn't make Q3 in a while. He partners Stroll there. Lando Norris, unlucky number 13th, and Tsunoda with a pretty weak qualifying as well in 14th. Vettel in 15th. The GOAT, Kubica, the GOAT in 16th. My favorite number, and the GOAT is there, Kubica. Pit lane start for Sergio Perez and Nicholas Latifi. I wasn't aware of that before the stream began, folks, but there you go. Pit lane start for those guys, and obviously a advantage of that is that you kind of get a clear run on the grid, or a clear run into the first corner or whatever. Obviously you start back, and you get a free choice of tires. So a silver lining perhaps for Perez, but a very difficult track. Very difficult track for him to try and come back from the back of the grid. Pierre Gasly, he could be a serious dark horse here. You never know. This is a track where brave driving could favor a driver. So hopefully Gasly will be on form today to do a few bits. Lewis Hamilton. Has he got the inside line? I think he does have the inside line for the first corner. But Hamilton Max obviously has a slight head start on the grid, but a very short run down to turn one. It could be not too important, the head start. It could be more important to have the inside line, which Lewis has. But we'll see how that develops. So of course Latifi is understood to there's various sources online that have said that Latifi's supposed to be staying with Williams for next year. I suppose 50%. I suppose you're not really going to find too many rumors that Bottas is staying at Mercedes. A lot of people want Williams to release. Well, he is out of contract at the end of the year. Obviously, is George Russell. So obviously, everybody wants Mercedes to make the swoop for him, but it hasn't happened. But obviously, there's 101 rumors online about how it has happened. Bottas is supposed to be going to is supposed to be certainly going to Alfa Romeo now, based on the latest rumors on Twitter and stuff like that. And there's more talk now of De Vries and De Vries being signed. Personally, I think De Vries would be better signed going to would be better off going to Williams. I don't see why you'd really go to Alfa Romeo, but this seems to be the some of the latest rumors going around online, whether you want to believe them or not. So on the formation lap here, folks, we're just about I'd say a minute away from the start. Hope it's a good day where you are. Hope you're at home and chilling out, or maybe you're out having an old pint. Of course, I've got my little bit of orange on, a little bit of a Max Verstappen fan myself. Thought he was quite good there. Obviously, won his debut Grand Prix for Red Bull, which was insane. When he was 17, I think. 17, 16, maybe even 16. When was he? What age was he when he won that race? I remember it was Spain. It was Spain. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, the fans were warned about smoke. They were warned about smoke, and obviously you can't have smoke on a track from flares and stuff like that. That would be pretty bad for visibility reasons. First win 2016. What age was he when he was 2016? So he was 17 when he joined Red Bull in 2015, and then he won his first race in 2016. So yeah, he was 17 and 166 days. So not far off 16 if he wasn't 16 when he won that race. So Latifi obviously probably not going to do very well here if the rumors are true that he's staying at Williams for 2022 season. I can't. I mean, if he is supposed to be re-signed, Williams should look at this race and kind of have a look at things and maybe see that he's not very good. I don't know. Maybe he will be good. Maybe there's a surprise in store for Latifi, but I can't see him managing anything from the back of the grid. The question is, can Sergio Perez do something from the back of the grid in probably the fastest car on the grid? One Red Bull at the beginning of the track, or at the front of the race, and one at the very back. So we will see. We will see how that goes as the race develops. Two Haas's on the back of the grid. We're gonna have 5 lights here, ladies and gentlemen, and then the lights are gonna go out, and we're gonna be away for the Zandvoort Grand Prix. It is lights out, and it's a pretty decent start from everybody. Max Verstappen gets a good start into the first corner. Lewis Hamilton is there with him as well. There's a Williams making good progress at the back. Can everybody make it through the first corner? The Ferraris are making moves now, and Pierre Gasly. It's pretty okay at the front. Everybody's a tight section now as Max Verstappen is already away. He's already away. He's not hanging about here. The Alpines are making moves now. Giovinazzi falls back, and it looks like Fernando Alonso made a couple of places there. But Giovinazzi's 3 wide into the next corner. Oh, it's brilliant racing from Alpine and Giovinazzi. You have to say he's had some great starts in the last couple of seasons, and he's keeping his car on the track here. He's not being out-muscled. Ferraris have done well. I believe they're in third and fourth now, but I'm not 100% that. And it's George Russell. It's George Russell really on the attack here. Daniel Ricciardo still behind the, doesn't look like he made up a place there. Giovinazzi is falling back now inevitably. Looks like Stroll is trying to make moves too. Lando Norris is doing pretty well. Okay, so Gasly has kept fourth, unbelievably. Verstappen is ahead, 5 and 6 for the Ferraris. Alpine in 7th and 8 with Alonso in front. Ricciardo is in 9th. Russell still in 11th. It looked like he was trying to make moves there. Kubica's has held his position as well. Perez is already up 1 place, ladies and gentlemen. And Giovinazzi has indeed dropped back 3. There's no DRS until the end of the 3rd lap, obviously. And there wasn't any drama on that first lap. but that was pretty decent from everybody. Michael Schumacher is behind Mazepin at the moment. Unfortunately for him, Latifi is dead last. Of course, he's not even at the back of the pack yet. How is he not even at the back of the pack when he started from the pit lane? Neither is Perez either. Oh my goodness. So everybody made it through the first lap very well, and everybody made it through the first lap fast. Verstappen is already a second, as 1.2 seconds ahead, and Bottas has already dropped 3 seconds back from the leader. Gasly's holding him uh, just out of DRS range. DRS range is Bottas from Gasly, and both Ferraris are very close there in fifth and sixth. The race will probably settle into a rhythm now, unfortunately, folks. But where the excitement is going to come for this race will be in the middle and, of course, the latter sections of the. Looks like there could be problems for Ricardo there. George Russell behind him has contacted his pit wall there to say that he's seen some smoke coming from Ricardo. So it'll be the latter stages of the race where this race will get a little bit more exciting. Of course, we don't know how tires are going to get affected as the race develops. We don't know how the fuel load, lightning will affect the race as the cars get lighter throughout the race. Of course, there's cars that can go easier on their tires. There's drivers that are much better at taking care of their tires. So the race might settle into a slight rhythm here, but not to worry. There will be plenty of excitement to look forward to. So Russell is still outside the points, obviously, but he has got Giovinazzi in front of him, who you would argue is probably a similar car on all out all out performance and stuff like that. Who is the better driver? Well, we have a good chance to see this now. We have our Alfa Romeo versus a Williams on the track for the first time in a while together, fighting for points. So we'll see who comes out the victor there. Bit of a lockup there from the Alpine. I think in the first couple of laps, George Russell had a very good start through turn one, managed to keep 11th. Big load of dirt coming off the car in front of him. Oh, and he just kept his front wing there, folks. He just kept his front wing there as a big lockup from one of the Alpines in front of him. Giovinazzi kept his foot in it there as they went onto that nice middle sector. Oh, and there was a little bit of contact there too on Antonio Giovinazzi's wing from the front Alpine, which I think is, oh my goodness. And again Mazepin there with a questionable blocking move on his teammate there as he ran him close into the wall as they were making it down the pit straight. Of course, they were flat out there. Mick was trying to overtake him, but Mazepin, of course, is well known for closing the door quite late. Another fastest lap from Max Verstappen. It's 1:14.8, almost 1.15 seconds. As you probably remember, that's about 7 or 8 seconds off the pace now from the fastest qualifying laps, from the fastest that Red Bull car can go. Bottas has dropped back to just under 5 seconds behind the leader, while Hamilton is well out of DRS range at this stage. And it's probably going to be a quiet race for the Red Bull garage, they will be hoping. And there's a decent gap then back to Gasly, who is about 4 seconds behind Bottas. Race control, DRS is enabled, so let's see what happens here now. So I think I must have missed something there. I think I think they waited for lap 5 to activate the DRS there because it is kind of a short circuit. So we have the teammates of Hamilton and Bottas. We have teammates of Leclerc and Sainz, and we have teammates of Alonso. And Ocon, as they're going through the third corner there in a heavy banking section, and it looks like Ocon tried something. He went low, Alonso went high, but Alonso kept the space. We have these two now. Very interesting to see how this race develops. Unfortunately, no, 15. No, unfortunately, the Ferraris are not within DRS range of each other. Hamilton's already on the radio. Lap 5, Hamilton is already on the radio, and he's saying about it's going to be hard to keep these tires with the pace that they're running at the moment. Mick Schumacher is already into the pits. Did he change tires there? Yes, he went onto the hard tire, I believe, so he'll be looking to do quite a long stint on them. Obviously, the hard tire lasts the longest. It has the lesser amount of grip out of the three tires that you can use, but they last the longest. They're the most durable tire. But unfortunately for poor Mick, he will actually he probably will be about a second or two off the pace now, just because of the tires. Alonso kept his foot in it there to keep that place in front of his teammate Ocon. It was both Alpines went past Antonio Giovinazzi in the first lap. You got to say though, those Alpines they look somewhat competitive. You know, you'd almost refer to them as kind of the old Racing Point. I mean, I know Renault was quite competitive for the last couple of years, but like not really competitive in terms of being competitive, being consistently competitive. Giovinazzi was trying to make a move on the Ferrari there, but the Ferrari was parked in the middle of the track and he couldn't get past. So that was brilliant moves there on the first lap from Antonio Giovinazzi, you have to say. He has a little bit of passion in him today after that very decent qualifying session. Of course, he matched his highest qualifying position. We have Ocon on the radio, and he's complaining about Fernando. This will be interesting. This will be interesting. Will there be team orders at Alpine, folks? Will they tell Alonso, the double world champion, possibly one of the best drivers on the grid at the moment, one of the most talented and the most experienced, to get out of the way? To get out of the way for Esteban Ocon, his younger, still quite unexposed teammate. So again, the gap is being held there at about 2.7 seconds away from Max Verstappen is Hamilton. Obviously, well out of DRS range. To be within DRS range, you need to be within 1 second of the DRS detection zone, which is basically a point on the lap where the car in front goes through, and then you go past it too, and it measures the gap between the car in front and yourself when you pass that gap. So if you're out of a second, you don't get DRS, which Hamilton is now dropped back to almost 3 seconds. So he's well beyond DRS range at this stage. Perez is up into 18th. He's 34 seconds behind the leaders. Latifi is last, only for the fact that Michael Schumacher took a pit stop there. So a pretty... Yeah, so Verstappen is already lapping Mick Schumacher here, unfortunately. Bottas team radio, playing the long game is the message. Obviously, probably trying to take care of his slightly weaker tire, the soft tire, but of course the fastest tire, due to the fact it's got more grip. Now, of course, it's got more grip, and if you go faster on a tire that's got more grip and you push the car, you will wear your tires out quicker. So I wouldn't expect Bottas to probably start. I'd expect Bottas now to start dropping back in terms of times from Hamilton, because obviously Hamilton is probably the better driver. And we have a viewer here, Adam Horrigan. He's put into the live chat here, ladies and gentlemen. He says, "Man Verstappen." Yes, I agree. I'm wearing my bit of orange here for the Netherlands and couldn't find a bar here, so I'm tuning in live and direct. Well, I hope, Adam, you found a cold beer to tune in with us this evening. I'm on the water at the moment, but heck, I might get a beer myself, so we'll see. Got some beer there, some nice Dutch beer, and a Dutch t-shirt as we cheer on Verstappen. What more do you need for your Sunday? So, unfortunately, Mick Schumacher is miles behind at this stage. Vettel is still held at 15th. They're not exactly completely spread out at the moment. Everybody's within a second. A lot of drivers here are within DRS range of the car in front, but there doesn't seem to be too much overtaking at the moment, as Leclerc has radioed in to say plan B, or he has got a radio message from the team to say plan B, which I can't tell you what that means because I don't know what the plan B setup for them is, for those guys, is today, but could be just obviously a slight change. Perez is in the pits already, folks. Perez is in the pits already after starting on the higher tire. Questions, what is going on there? Can't understand the logic behind that move myself. I mean, if he's already on hard tires, what else would he be doing? Okay, so he had flat spots on his hard compound tire. So a miserable weekend continues for Sergio Perez, folks, because he has had to pit for the second time, only on the 9th lap. And he's had to pit because he flat spotted his hard tires. And when you flat spot a tire, we have another viewer here, Laman Ibrahim. Is Verstappen still setting fastest laps? Unfortunately, Le Mans, I have bad news for you. Hamilton has just set the fastest lap there at 1:14.75. Still a good 6 seconds off the pace, but 6 seconds off qualifying pace. We will see those lap times drop as we go on as the race develops. Perez got a message there about having to pit, so maybe credit to Perez. He continued on there, but the team got onto him to say that his vibrations in his car were too heavy. So Hamilton is, as I said, the gap dropped out to about 3 seconds there on Hamilton, and it just dropped below 2.7 there, but it's gone back out to 3 seconds nearly. So Verstappen very comfortable at the front. Verstappen's on the radio. So, folks, it looks like the Mercedes' original plan was to go for a one-stop strategy here, which means that they would pit once and that they would do obviously one stint on the softer tire, which I believe Hamilton is on at the moment, and probably go to either the harder tire and push towards the end, or change to the medium tire and push, but kind of also keep the tires in good nick until the end. Looks like he's been given the go-ahead, is the word from Red Bull. They have said that they're looking at Lewis Hamilton's times, and he is now going faster in the last couple of laps. So perhaps he's trying to get rid of these tires. He's going to go harder. He's going to use the tires up more, but he's going to pit and then have a stint in the middle where he can pit again later. And that will be obviously a very fast stint because he won't have to take care of the tires for very long. The top 10, ladies and gentlemen, so far, as we see Vettel come into the pits to switch onto the hard tire again. He's going to switch onto those tires, and he's going to try and go as long as he can into the race without having to pit again. Red Bull doing a one-stop strategy as well. I'm not 100% at the moment. It looks like. I mean, if he's comfortable at this pace, which he probably isn't ultimately comfortable, that would be dangerous if they don't switch to a two-stop. If they decide to keep him on a one-stop, we could have a repeat of the likes of Hungary and Hungary before, where Lewis Hamilton did the two-stop late on Red Bull and overtook Verstappen towards the end. You might remember this year, I think in Spain, where Hamilton was about 10 seconds behind Verstappen, and there was about 15 laps or so left, and Hamilton just knocked those times down. He had fresh tires. He did the two-stop instead of the one-stop. He just kept going faster towards the end, and he caught Max Verstappen with a good 4 or 5 laps to go. So, interesting to see how that develops. I'll keep you updated if there's any. Any developments there. Thank you very much for the like, folks. That's the first like on the channel, on the stream. Of course, we got up to 3 viewers there yesterday. As we get on to 3 viewers now, which is obviously great stuff. Hello, folks. How are you getting on today? Hope everybody. I probably will grab a beer now in a couple of moments. So the top 10, folks, is Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Gasly, Leclerc, and Sainz. Are we gonna have a moment of appreciation for Gasly here, who started the race in 4th, hasn't lost a place, is holding the 2 Ferraris behind him, and also the very competitive, or the decently competitive, Alonso and Ocon. He has a very decent gap of 3.5 seconds to the car in front, or to the car behind. I apologize. The 2 Ferraris there, who have a gap there of about 1.5 seconds between each other. So looks like they can't do any overtaking, and it looks like they're not within DRS time, or the DRS zone to push. So it does look like Zandvoort, unfortunately, is a track where it's very difficult to overtake. However, folks, stay tuned, because the battle of the strategies, the battle of the pit wall, will come into play later, and we will see who makes the first move in terms of pit stops. Of course, if Hamilton is going quicker and is able to pit again and go quicker than Verstappen is able to, while Verstappen is taking care of his tires for a longer period, that would favor Hamilton. However, he hasn't managed to bring the gap down beyond 3 seconds. He's still hovering there at about 3 seconds behind Verstappen. But the plan could be just to keep about 5 seconds behind Verstappen and then push. So it's still up in the air there a little bit. Perez has taken the fastest lap off Hamilton at the moment, But of course, Perez won't get the point for it. But if he does get the point for it and he stays out of the top 10, he'll take the point away from Hamilton. So Hamilton won't get the point for fastest lap, but neither will Perez. But still early days. If there's a safety car or anything like that, Perez could be in the show for points towards the end of the race. There's more than likely going to be a safety car in this race, you would imagine. If there isn't, that would be quite wild. Have another like on the chat on the stream, folks. Thank you very much for that. I can't see. Can I see who did that? I don't think so. Got a new subscriber from Laman Ibrahim. Thank you very much, Laman. Hope you're doing well where you are today. Hope you're enjoying the race. Hopefully it's sunny. Hopefully you're having a beer or maybe no smoking. So Perez is struggling to get up the field there, unfortunately for him. Not really anywhere at the moment worth mentioning. Verstappen's having a little bit of a quiet time out the front, but obviously he's got to keep that focus. He's got to keep that pace. He's got to stay out. He's got to keep that concentration, stay out in front. But there is obviously, I don't know if you've seen over the weekend, there's a big lump of dirt and kind of sand at the side of the track on one particular corner, and the drivers are driving over that part of the track, and it's kicking up dirt and kicking up sand behind them. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. Of course, Daniel Ricciardo, famously in Austria, was doing the same thing, but he had it set up that he was literally going over this particular part of the track before the straight. Every time he would leave a wheel out and he would clip the dirt, and when he clipped the dirt, the car behind him would just obviously have to go into this big cloud of dirt, and it was really, really irritating for them. But sneaky trick there from Daniel Ricciardo, but we'll see how this one develops in Zandvoort today. Saw the start live, and the Dutch fans looked class. Love the pyros. Yes, of course. The warning for the fans this weekend was, if you have pyrotechnics, don't take the piss with them, because obviously the smoke will reduce visibility on the track. You've seen a little bit of orange smoke going across the track at the beginning, but thankfully they've kept most of the pyros in the back pocket or in the backpack until after the race, when I'd imagine there's going to be probably a visible cloud of smoke from here. I'm about a 40-minute train away from Zandvoort, and I'd say I'll be able to see the orange smoke. Or the session on the street tonight might be worth heading out for a El Suppe de Heineken and sit down for half an hour and just see what the story is. Obviously, if Verstappen wins this, we're 16 laps in, folks. We're nowhere near the end yet. We're not even near halfway. Nikita Mazepin is holding up Sergio Perez at the moment. And Sergio Perez does the dummy, but Mazepin did go late. But of course, a driver like Perez probably did that on purpose somewhat, unless he gets on the radio to complain now. 17th place for Perez. He has Latifi in front of him, out of the DRS range at the moment, but surely he'll be able to close the gap. 3/10 of a second is the gap so far. And then 15 Kubica, possibly a sitting duck, you might say, when Perez comes up behind him. Latifi again, I would say he's also pretty 4 seconds behind Latifi is Perez, so he's got a little bit of a gap to close there. Lance Stroll pushing now at George Russell. George Russell hasn't managed to overtake. He hasn't managed to overtake Giovinazzi. In fact, the gap has dropped there. So unfortunately for Russell, doesn't look like he's going to finish in the points, because Lance Stroll in the arguably way more competitive Aston Martin, and also a decent outfit as a driver goes, Lance Stroll is coming up behind him, closing the gap. So it looks like George Russell could fall back now, and he would be in 12th place if Stroll manages to get the job done. And Giovinazzi is holding his own. You have to say, folks, he hasn't dropped back quite yet. Again, the race is very early, but I would be looking at the likes of Norris and stuff like that to push for 10th. A little housekeeping call there from the Mercedes garage, or from the Mercedes pit wall there, to their driver, just saying to switch something up on the steering wheel there. So Lewis seeming a slight bit panicked, you might say. We have another viewer on the channel, folks. We're up to 4. I think that is a record. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're doing well. Sorry that the stream is a bit minimum at the moment. I don't have the OBS software working very well at the moment. Seems to stutter a little bit. So we don't have any cool intro or outro music just yet, but it's all in the works. Don't worry. Bottas has dropped back to 10 seconds behind the leader. He's 7 seconds behind his teammate in second. So, I mean, what do you do in that situation? He's already dropped 10 seconds back. Verstappen and Hamilton are not going to slow down as the race goes on. So it's arguable that Bottas is playing second fiddle now for the whole race. He's 10 seconds behind the leaders. I mean, if he goes absolutely after it now for the next couple of laps and closes the gap to like 5 seconds or something like that, he'll have a chance. Sorry, yeah, 4 seconds. He's 7 seconds behind Hamilton now. But if he keeps dropping behind like that, he's just going to have the same race, which he does. Now, he could still finish on the podium. He could still finish on the podium. Gasly's about 17 seconds, it seems, behind about 17 seconds behind Bottas at the moment. So the gap is there, obviously, for Gasly. It doesn't look like he'll get anything today in terms of a podium. Obviously, a high points finish would be excellent, but I would say that Bottas's basic mission now is to get the podium. But the likes of Gasly, Ferrari, possibly if they have a high push towards the end, maybe they could salvage something in terms of a podium. But it's unlikely. It's unlikely, I think, the way things are going. So the race is still very much 50-50. It's anybody's at this point. Hamilton getting more engine instructions there, it seems. And it looks like Perez still has the fastest lap, and he's going to overtake Latifi just like that. Same corner as he overtook Mazepin last time, about 2 laps ago, I think. Sonoda, obviously the rookie this year for AlphaTauri, looking to secure a seat next year. Has he done enough to secure a seat next year? I would argue maybe not exactly. If he has a terrible end of the season where he makes loads of mistakes, yeah, he might have to go after that. But apart from that, I think he's done pretty well. I think everybody would agree with that. So a couple of points finishes at the end of the year, and he will be in good form, I'd say, to re-sign for AlphaTauri. A couple of rumors on the interweb, folks. As I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, obviously we have a couple of new people joining us today. I'll just mention it again. There's been a couple of rumors going around online that Latifi is supposed to have re-signed for Williams for 2022, and that Albon has likely signed for Williams because there's a rumor going around that he had a seat fitted at Williams. So obviously, there could be complete baloney, or could be a little bit of smoke there, and that might lead to quite a fire in the media if Albon is to make a return to Williams. Obviously, if you were listening to or not obviously, but maybe if you were listening to the podcast, the F1 TV Era podcast, available on Spotify. The link is in the description of this stream. So I believe, as the race is still quiet, folks, for the moment. But Bottas is supposed to be signing for Alfa Romeo. Now, this is the most recent rumor going around there, which, as I said, if you're listening to the podcast, you would know that I thought a really good move would be for Bottas to go to Williams, for him to return to Williams, to return to a somewhat competitive outfit. But obviously, as you can see, Giovinazzi is managing to keep his car in the same position as both Ferraris are and both Mercedes are right now. So you got to say there's a little bit of performance in the Alfa Romeo. So maybe the choice between Williams and Alfa Romeo is actually quite a tight choice. When a couple of months ago, I think you probably would have said going to the likes of Williams would be better than Alfa Romeo, because Alfa Romeo just are never really there anywhere, are never really in it towards the end of any race, and haven't been for a long time. While Williams have had that spark that something's coming back. Perez still has the fastest lap. Norris is unlucky number 13th, and he's still on that grid position. Unfortunately, he hasn't managed to overtake anybody. So, folks, Lewis Hamilton has pitted. He has pitted here, and he has had a slow pit stop, a 3.6-second pit stop, and he is probably not going to be happy with that. He has dropped back to third place, and Gasly is the closest driver behind him in fourth, still 4.4 seconds behind Hamilton. So onto the medium tires is Hamilton, the C2 compound. So that means he's got a little bit more grip and a little bit more speed, but they won't last as long as the long tires. As Max Verstappen now pits, ladies and gentlemen, can he have a better pit stop than Mercedes? Bottas is 10 seconds behind. Hamilton is 14 seconds behind. So it looks like they might gap him here. What will the pit stop be like from Red Bull? It's clean. He's down. He's out in 2.7. Not the fastest pit stop from them, but pretty decent. As Bottas goes through, I'm looking on the main straight now. Is Hamilton on the main straight? He is on the main straight. He's coming over the start finish line now. Max Verstappen to that pit exit, and this is going to be a decent day's work done from Red Bull there as they put him in. They put Verstappen out of the pits into second place. He's 10 seconds behind the leader. Hamilton is again 3 seconds still behind Verstappen, as I believe Verstappen went on to the hard tire, but I wasn't paying attention there. I'm sorry about that. I was paying attention to the time. He's on the medium compound too. Wow. Whoa, big call there. Both teams go onto the medium tire. So, folks, that means that they will probably have to pit again before the end of the race. So the race is very much still on between Hamilton, as Hamilton brings the gap down now to 2 seconds. As we know, if he can bring it down to 1 second, he will be within DRS range. We've got all these graphics coming up on the screen now saying that it's probable that Hamilton will overtake very soon, but I can't see how that would play out now in the next few laps. I think Verstappen is in a good position to extend that gap, but you never know with Lewis Hamilton. As Hamilton goes fast, as he goes purple. Some of the chat are not going to like that. F's in chat as Hamilton goes purple. Gasly has held fourth place for the majority of the race. 23 laps in now. Fifth and sixth are Ferrari. The Alpines are both sitting in seventh and eighth as they started in. And Daniel Ricciardo is in ninth, while Giovinazzi has the last of the points positions in 10th. Russell is sitting outside the points in 11th. Stroll is 12th. And Norris, as I said, almost a minute behind the leaders, ladies and gentlemen, hasn't managed to gain anything in this race so far. While Perez has made easy work of Kubica and sits in 15th with his hard tires to still go on towards the end of the race. So, as I said, he's a little bit over a minute behind the leaders at the moment. Obviously, a pit stop is not going to be anywhere near a minute long, but he will gain about 15 or 20 seconds. He will take a big gap out of the cars in front, and obviously if cars are within 15 or 20 seconds and they pit, he has a good chance of overtaking them. So 5 places for Verstappen, 5 places for Perez to get into the points. He's in 15th. He needs to get into the top 10 to score a point, and I think the gap to 10th is about 6 or 7 seconds. So he could do well. Here. He might gain a few points for sure, but Hamilton obviously has the fastest lap, as I just mentioned there. So can Perez do his trademark thing and take the point away from Hamilton as the race develops? Perez is up into 14th now, folks. He has overtaken possibly a struggling Tsunoda, still in 15th, hasn't managed to make too much impact on the race, hasn't managed to impact on F1. On the F1 circuit at Zandvoort over the weekend. A message from Bottas now says he's starting to have vibrations, so it means he might have flat spotted his tire and is starting to struggle there. Again, folks, the critical gap between Verstappen and Hamilton is still at 2 seconds. So Verstappen very much holding his own there, and Hamilton unable to really push, to really capitalize, to really make Red Bull worry. He is knocking a 10th of a second here and there out of the time, but he isn't managing to keep that consistent. And it looks like Hamilton is even getting a slight warning on the radio there about tire temperature, because he's perhaps pushing more than he would. As Gasly pits now, folks. Gasly pits on lap 25. So about a third of the way here, folks, as the pit stop window is very well and is very, very much open. Gasly with the AlphaTauri garage, neat outfit, but not a neat stop this time, as they just under 3 seconds there, 2.9 seconds. 19 seconds, folks, it took for that pit stop. So it's about 19 seconds in and around that amount of time to go into the pits and come out of the pits. So that's the gap that we have to remember as the race develops later on. Obviously, you would say at this moment in time, it would be a little bit mad if Verstappen was able to get a gap up to that much, so that he's safe from Hamilton. So the race is very much still 50-50 at this point because it will come down to a battle of the pit stops as the race comes into the closing stages. Uh, Bottas is very much on the end of his tires right now. He's going to pit very soon. He's 4 seconds in front of the leaders. Sorry, he's 4 seconds out in front of second place. And Leclerc and Sainz have moved up to fourth and fifth because Gasly has pitted and he has come out in seventh. So, an interesting thing to look at now is that Leclerc is 17 seconds behind the leaders, but Gasly is only well, okay, so he's a little he's within that window of the pit stops, so he is safe to move back up to fourth when the Ferraris pit. Bottas is reporting back to say that the tires are dropping. He's losing a little bit of performance, but he's able to go a couple of laps longer. Will that do anything? 29 laps on the red tire, on the soft tire so far. It's going to need something special to extend the lead right now from Verstappen. So I doubt he will stay out much longer. Mercedes are probably onto him to get in. Hamilton still has the fastest lap. It looks like Bottas is going to stay out for a couple of laps more anyway. And Verstappen is behind him now. And Hamilton has managed to bring the gap within 1.3 seconds. And it looks like, yeah, okay, I think they had a back market to pass there, folks. And it looks like Hamilton has got the gap down to within 2 seconds, a comfortable 2 seconds, but Verstappen had to overtake someone there, and it looks like Hamilton had to overtake someone. It looks like it was the Aston Martin of Vettel there, unfortunately, getting overtaken. So as they settle back into it now, Hamilton is within 1.2 seconds. As you know, DRS is 1 second. So he has managed to bring it down from 2 seconds to about 1.2, 1.4. It's hovering around that mark. Folks, thank you very much for tuning into the channel. Thank you very much for tuning into the stream today. If you found this by accident, what's the crack? I hope you're well. I hope you're enjoying the race. And thank you for tuning into F1 TV Air. Of course, my name is Tim Speed. Verstappen's on the radio. And he's comfortable. He's comfortable at the moment. The gap is at 1.6 now between him and Hamilton as the race develops. Bottas, we have a message here from Yup. Bottas is leading the race. He's 2.6 seconds ahead. And 1.3 is not enough in the chat from superfan Adam Horrigan. Yes, you are 100% correct. 1.3 is not enough. It's dropped out to 1.6 now. An extra 3/10 there. So it looks like Verstappen is doing well. There's a lot of orange in the crowd. Myself here, I know it's probably not great to be biased as a sports reporter, but I am very much hoping that Verstappen wins today. They are managing to close the gap on Bottas, Verstappen, and Hamilton. Again, there's the outright pace at the front looks to be very fast. I'd say obviously Verstappen and Hamilton are running way quicker than Bottas at the moment. They've dropped that gap down to within 1.7 seconds. Bottas will probably be within DRS range soon for Verstappen. So definitely another pit stop towards the end of this race. Obviously going to happen because they're both on the medium and they won't be able to keep this pace up as much as it looks like. I'm not sure if that happened in the pits, but it looks like Perez has had a really good lap there, or a really good couple of corners, as he has overtaken two people. No, we have a Williams in the pits. Was Perez in front of the Williams? No, he wasn't in front of the Williams. We have a couple of cars pitting. We have Giovinazzi, Russell, and Stroll all dropping quite back because they're in the pits. And we have Perez up in 11th. Perez is in 11th. He doesn't have a fastest lap. Obviously, if he gets up into the points and he gets a fast lap, he will get the point for fastest lap. But he is not in the top 10 yet, but he is in 11th. Pierre Gasly would have moved there on the Alpine of, I can't quite tell. They go by, I think that's Alonso, and he goes around the outside. He hangs his arse around the outside in that AlphaTauri, the very competitive AlphaTauri, and he takes that place off Alonso as he moves back up to 6th. Of course, both Ferraris have yet to pit. Both Ferraris have yet to pit, and Verstappen is absolutely under Bottas's wing right now. He's well within DRS range, and he's in a very competitive car. Obviously, the performance difference between the Mercedes and the Red Bull has dropped a lot in the last couple of races. You would argue they're almost the same, if not slightly better. The skill level is very high from Verstappen. The skill level is very high from Hamilton. Obviously, you would argue that Verstappen, Bottas is probably in third out of those three drivers, as they reach 301 kilometers at the end of the straight in the speed trap. So, unfortunately for Verstappen, he didn't manage to get it done here, as Hamilton has dropped back 3 seconds behind Verstappen. So, the difference there was Verstappen had the DRS of the car in front and managed to get quite a little bit of time cut off his lap time there, because he had the drag of the car in front, because he was close to him, and he also had the DRS on the straight, so he managed to get probably a couple of kilometers an hour quicker there than he would without DRS. So essentially, if Mercedes have their thinking hats on here, they would keep Bottas defending Max Verstappen as much as possible and delaying him to give Hamilton a chance to get up behind Max Verstappen and overtake, which has just dawned on me is probably what they're doing. Leclerc and Sainz in fourth and fifth, Gasly in sixth, Alonso and Ocon seventh and eighth, and Ricciardo and Norris. The two McLarens are in the points with with Perez, in the other Red Bull, very, very close behind Perez. And it is Verstappen now going to make a move on Bottas. It looks to be quite an easy one to do. He makes it early on the straight. The orange wall, the orange crowd, the orange army goes mad, and Verstappen is back into the front. Bottas is holding up Hamilton now, and he moves to the right, and Hamilton moves into second. He is within DRS range at the moment. He's about 2/10 within DRS range. We'll just need to keep an eye on that for the second for the next couple of laps here, because if he can keep the DRS, if he can keep within DRS and he gets to the last corner, he's going to have a great exit to that corner, and he could take the lead from Max Verstappen here. We could see a change of order. This is pretty dangerous for Max Verstappen fans. It's on the 30th lap, I believe. I'm sorry, there's a replay happening at the moment. Verstappen's on the radio. He's just getting praise there from his team. The Orange Army are happy. The sun is out. There's hardly a cloud in Zandvoort, and the crowd are buzzing. So Hamilton didn't get held up too much there behind Bottas, thankfully. But he was probably a little bit far out of DRS. It's fine now, because Hamilton has dropped back to. He's lost 8/10 there. He's back to 1.5 seconds. Hamilton, you give Max Verstappen clean air, you tell him to go out and be quick, and he does it. Bottas is in the pits. How will it be a fast or slow or medium or a terrible one? It looks pretty decent. It's the fastest out of them today, folks. It's a 2.2 from the Mercedes garage there for Bottas. So Bottas with every chance to drop as little time as possible and get back up into the top three. It looks like Leclerc is miles behind, as Bottas is safely at pit exit. So the gap is quite close now between the Ferraris and the Mercedes, but Mercedes are still quite comfortably out in front. I think Sainz is pitting now, folks. Sainz is pitting now. So the fact that the Ferrari quite close to the Mercedes now is negated by the fact that they still have to pit. We're on lap 32. There's 40 laps left, folks. 40 laps left. I know that might seem like a lot, but don't worry. The excitement is only going to build. I'm going to excuse myself to get a glass of water, as the top 10 remains unremained, or remains the same, apart from the fact that Ocon has pitted. So Perez, folks, is in the top 10. He is in 9th place, as Daniel Ricciardo also pitted there, and Tsunoda pits too. So Hamilton is again just not really keeping that gap, not really managing to close that gap there between himself and Verstappen. Obviously, the pace is quite fast out the front. You might remember with France, there was a couple of drivers on the radio straight away saying, "Look, we're not going to be able to keep this pace up. We're not going to be able to drive like this until the end of the race." So I'd imagine that has been all sorted out before the race, that they might have to go into a 3-stop. They still have to go into a 3-stop. They still have to pit again. But with the gap so tight, two seconds, 3 seconds, 10 seconds is nothing to Hamilton. You know, you give Hamilton 10 seconds, and you give him as good tires or as good a car as you, he can close that gap in that time. You would argue that so far in the race he hasn't managed to do that, but anything could change. There could be a safety car, there could be something could go wrong. How Verstappen's tires could just drop off quicker. This race is not won yet. It's far from won yet. It's probably very, very tense on the Red Bull pit wall right now. As Verstappen is taking a very high line through the first of the bank corners there in turn 3, I think. Kubica has dropped back to 15th. I believe he started the race in 16th, so be decent enough for him to finish that race in 15th or 16th. It was a Williams that went by him. I think it was his old teammate, George Russell. Yes, I think so. Who do I think will be faster, Hamilton in the Red Bull or Verstappen in the Mercedes? Well, isn't that the question? I mean, people would ask the same, like, if you put the likes of Vettel into the Mercedes, how fast would he be? You know, someone of his caliber. George Russell has a time penalty. Breaking news, as Alonso is in the pits in 6th, a very decent 6th, as Sainz goes past him and Norris goes past him and Perez goes past him too on the hard tires, folks. Remember, Perez is not going to pit again, and he is up into 8th place with a somewhat struggling Lando Norris in front of him in 7th. The gap is still at 1.7 for Hamilton and Verstappen. So Hamilton in the Red Bull or Verstappen in the Mercedes. I say if you ask that question at the end of last season or at the midpoint of last season, if you put Verstappen into that top tier Mercedes, I would say that Verstappen could have probably beat Hamilton, or if not, absolutely match him week in, week out. This year, I'd say that the Mercedes, it hasn't exactly dropped off, and the increase in performance and the increase in everything from Red Bull has been brilliant. So I'd say they'd be both quite matched now. But the slightly better car, Mercedes, the slightly better car last year, I'd say if you put Max into that car, I'd say he would have beaten Lewis for sure. This year, I'd say it'd be so hard to tell. It'd be so hard to predict that. Everybody's on the medium except Sainz, who's on the hard. With so Sainz is going for a one stop here, folks. Sainz is going for a one stop. Russell is going for a one stop too. He has Alonso and Ocon in front of him. He has Perez and Norris in front of him. I think Norris is yet to stop, but I'm not 100% about that. But we could see something with Russell and no, it looks like Kubica has to pit again. But there is a slight gap there, I'd say, in terms of maybe Russell picking up a point or two towards the end of the race, but it's quite unlikely to happen at this stage. The Ferrari's holding pace there. Has Leclerc pitted? No, I don't think he has pitted. But Sainz has pitted, and as I just said there, he's on the hard tire, so he won't be pitting. He'll be going towards the end. He'll be going flat out till the end of the race without pitting again. Schumacher and Mazepin, unfortunately, take up 19th and 20th place, and Giovinazzi, after his pits, it looks like his dream weekend has ended, as he's back in 18th at the moment. So Latifi and Giovinazzi in a quite familiar place there at the back of the grid, just in front of the Haas's, but really doing nothing else apart from that. We have blue flags as the leaders go by. Hamilton overtakes an Alpine there, the Alpine of Ocon, I would say. And it looks like they're going to have to overtake another Alpine in a couple of seconds, because Alonso is in front of them too. So with traffic and stuff like that, that is affecting Verstappen's ultimate pace. Obviously, if he didn't have to overtake, if he didn't have to lap the cars in front of him, he could just go fast. But on a skinny track like this, he has to slow down and lose a bit of time. But also does Hamilton, obviously. Bottas is already 22. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 1, folks, which means no overtaking, as it looks like we had a spin there from Sebastian Vettel in the second or third corner, as Latifi overtakes Sebastian Vettel, if you can believe that, because Vettel had a spin, but Vettel's still keeping his foot in it. Back in 17th, miserable weekend there for the folks at Aston Martin, unfortunately, and especially on the side of Vettel's garage. Hamilton with the fastest lap still, folks. It was Sebastian Vettel trying to make a move on Kubica there, I think. And as Bottas was lapping Sebastian Vettel, he just about missed him. He just about swiped by there. So we could have had quite a large accident there, and we could have had a safety car. So it looks like we just got away with it there, folks. We haven't had a safety car yet. I said there. My prediction is there will be a safety car, and it looks like we just narrowly avoided that one. Different part of the track, different part of the corner. That could have been a lot worse. The gap between Verstappen and Hamilton at the front is 2.1 seconds. The gap back to Bottas is 23 seconds there, ladies and gentlemen. The gap back from Bottas, the last podium position, to Gasly is another 23 seconds. So unfortunately, the top three are in a complete race of their own at the moment. Arguably in a race of his own himself is Perez, who's holding a solid 8 at the moment. But there is a slightly increasing gap between him and Norris, as maybe Perez could be in the window where he just needs to take care of his tires a little and not push too much. Max has been given the message to go, go, go. It's max mode for Max Verstappen over the next couple of laps because he will probably pit again. Could be sneaky carry on from the Red Bull garage, as they might have told Max Verstappen to go. And the Red Bull garage might have told Max Verstappen to go, and he might just slightly increase his times, while that might mean that Lewis Hamilton behind him has to push and use up his tires more than he would want to. But maybe Max Verstappen won't actually pit. They're just going to go faster. So Lewis will use his tires up more. But if he is going to pit, it looks like he'll pit in the next couple of laps. I'd say maybe the next 6 laps, perhaps. So still very tentative on the Red Bull garage, on the Red Bull pit wall. A quiet race, you could say, folks. A quiet race indeed. Most of the overtaking has just been cars getting lapped. So not the best type of overtaking, but still overtaking to a degree. Obviously not overtaking in terms of race. And Bottas is pitting, I think, here, or Hamilton. Bottas is doing I'm not sure why they would pit there, really. They're obviously playing the long game here for the second half of they're playing the long game for the second half of the race here. Shame about Giovinazzi after yesterday. Yeah, it is a pity, but I think fairly predictable, folks. I know he is a decent guy, and as I said in the podcast there a couple of weeks ago, very talented driver in the younger formulas, in the formulas before F1 and F2 and GP2 and stuff, GP3 and stuff like that. But unfortunately, he hasn't transitioned well into F1, and obviously the Alfa Romeo car has been pretty useless the last couple of seasons. But when you give a driver a car like that, you can't really expect him to do much, and he might have missed his window to stay within F1. Hopefully, you get a chance next year, but after 2 or 3 seasons in F1, he hasn't really impacted a lot. Hamilton's on the radio, and it is So Hamilton. So excuse me, folks. I'm sorry about that. Hamilton actually pitted, and then Max Verstappen is in the pits again. He's 24 seconds in front of Hamilton in second place. Hamilton has the fastest lap. That's the previous fastest lap. Don't worry about it. That he hasn't set a new one. Is it going to be a quick pit stop from Red Bull? It is a very clean one for sure. The timer comes up. Hamilton's nowhere close to him at the moment anyway. 2.1 seconds. Job done for Red Bull. The Orange Army is on their feet, and it looks like 21 seconds. I'm sure the gap has dropped now as Hamilton does take the first corner here, while Max Verstappen has just left there on pit exit a couple of moments before that. Okay, so the gap now is 3.3 seconds, folks. But Hamilton is on the faster tire, the slightly faster tire. So he will be looking to push now and close that gap. However, Max Verstappen can afford to be way more defensive because the tires he has aren't as fast. However, he can afford to be ultra defensive and move over left to right and give power out of the corners and stuff like that because his tires, the hard tire, are more durable. So if Hamilton pushes now and he uses up all the grip in his tires, Max Verstappen will be in a better position to defend towards the end and stay in front and hopefully win this race as Hamilton goes purple with a 25.43 in the first sector. The gap, the critical gap at the moment, folks, in another fastest sector is Verstappen. Verstappen responds with his own purple sector of 25.1 in sector 2. They are lighting the track up now, and the critical gap between first and second is 3.3. I'll keep you updated on that as we look at about 30 laps left. Verstappen's on the radio, and he's just questioning the choice of tire there as not questioning it too much. He's just curious about how much of the rest of the field is on the hard tire, and I would say it's probably 50-50 for how much of the field is on the hard tire. Russell is in 12th. Daniel Ricciardo is in 11th. Kubica drops back into the pits. Kubica is going to be dead last probably after this. So Hamilton 2.9, Bottas 5 seconds behind Hamilton, Gasly 27 seconds behind the podium places at the moment. Leclerc is on the hard tire. Sainz is on the hard tire too. They're in 5th and 6th, and Norris is on the mediums, I believe, in 7th. Perez is on the hard tire. His tires will surely start to fade very soon, I would imagine. And Russell is on the hard tire as well, as is Ricciardo. So maybe they'll be able to jump up a place or two towards the end of the race and nick a point. Yeah, so Norris is still on the same set of tires, believe it or not. He's in 7th at the moment, so he'll probably be looking to do probably looking to keep onto these tires and maybe go on the hard tires towards the end, I'd imagine. Go on the hard tires with more grip and a lighter car. He could light the racetrack up as the race gets into the end stages. And you never know what his nickname is, Last Lap Lando, of course, because he has great last laps and he's very quick in the latter stages of races. Gap is held at about 3 seconds between Hamilton and Verstappen, so no need to really panic yet. Alonso's still within the points, fair play to him. He's in 9th. His teammate Ocon is 1 second behind him in 10th. As we right on board with Lance Stroll going top speed, not exactly top speed, but holding in an 8 gear about 250 miles an hour in a part of the track that has a huge elevation change. Perez is in 8th at the moment. Of course, he's going to the end. He won't be pitting. And Hamilton has the fastest lap at the moment. So the extra point going to Lewis Hamilton for that. And they're retiring Nikita Mazepin in the number 9 car. Norris pits now. He's got a decent gap to Ricciardo behind him. He's got a gap of 21 seconds. So possibly going to jump out in front of his teammate and hold on to the last points position for the end of the race. Hamilton's on the radio. He's panicked. He doesn't like the tires he's on, and he's saying, I can't close the gap. Norris does get out of the pits just in front of his teammate, and they're going to, and Ricciardo gets ahead just ever so slightly. Ricciardo got the jump on him there, and I think Ricciardo pitted earlier. What tires is he on? I think he is on the... Is he on the red tire? No, surely not. But if he's on the older tire... and Latifi's under pressure now. Russell is putting the pressure on Lando Norris in the middle part of the sector of the track here. He's looking slightly competitive. He's got temperature in his tires. Lando Norris might have slightly less temperature. And Daniel Ricciardo is holding up Lando Norris a slight bit here, so gave the opportunity to George there, probably accidentally, but did give the chance there for George Russell to make a move as he held up his teammate a little bit. Hamilton's is on the radio again. Hamilton's on the radio again complaining about the tires. So not a good day for the Mercedes boys there. They're not happy. Their number 1 driver is not happy. So he has dropped the gap to 2.5 seconds. As we said, the critical gap there when they came out of the laps was 3 seconds. So he might manage to just pick away at that. Perhaps there's a couple of back markers that Max will have to deal with. He was 2 tenths, 3 tenths, and 1 tenth quicker that lap through all those sectors. So just adding up to under a second, Hamilton was quicker, just under a second quicker than Verstappen in the last lap. It's hard to really say. I mean, it's hard to say. The medium tire would surely start to drop off way before the hard tire, excuse me. So it's looking good for Max Verstappen at the moment, but there's still quite a tight line there. He needs to really keep focus out at the front and not make any mistakes. Pierre Gasly holding fourth quite well. Really, really impressive stuff from him. Sorry, folks, just had to do something there for a moment. Hamilton on the radio again. He's really not happy. He's really not pleased, and the gap has dropped out to 3 seconds yet again. So I can't remember in this race if I've had an overtake to inform you about. Unfortunately, that didn't happen in the pit stop, but certainly the racing is very exciting in terms of the drivers having fun out on the track, but doesn't necessarily translate very good for us, the fans. Vettel in the pits again there. A miserable weekend for himself. Can I drink a beer on this stream? No, I'm just gonna slide over here for a second. Ocon on the radio. There is a little bit of debris on the track there. The drivers have gone through it. Ocon was on the radio saying there he's got a few bits and pieces on the front of his car. He isn't too happy. Charles Leclerc, decent job from him today, you have to say. He's held fifth place, held in front of his teammate. Carlos Sainz is on the hard tire, and as I can just see now, so is Leclerc. So they will be finishing this race, of course. Perez is about 17 seconds behind the Ferraris in fifth and sixth. He's in seventh at the moment, so a very decent haul of points altogether for Perez, for Red Bull there. They are leading the race. They're going to get 6 points for seventh place. Ferrari will get 18 altogether for their drivers' efforts. Hamilton, of course, is 3 points in front of Verstappen in the lead of the table at the moment, and he will lose 7 points to Verstappen because Verstappen will gain 7 points because first place is 25, second is 19. Excuse me, he'll gain 6 points, but if he has the fastest lap, he'll lose 6 points, but if he has the fastest lap, he'll only lose 5. So we do need that fastest lap to change from the Mercedes, hopefully for the overall championship battle. It won't come down to 1 point and stuff like that, but it can, and it has in the last couple of seasons very often. So it'll be interesting to see if someone can snag that off Hamilton. Obviously, Monza next week, folks. Not a great track for overtaking in terms of slow corners and things like that. But there should be a decent bit of overtaking because it has very long straights and very fast sectors with 2 DRS sections. Hamilton is on the radio again. Hamilton is on the radio saying that he's not going to get to the end on these tires. And I've just glanced at the gap there, and it is dropping back to 4 seconds. Hamilton is losing time as the laps go on, and it looks like he is not happy at all in the front-running Mercedes out of the two. Russell is still hovering around the 12th mark. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to pip himself into the points. Norris has gotten in front of Ricciardo after Ricciardo pipped Norris out of the pits there. And the Alpine of Alonso is making a move on Perez as Perez dips into the pits, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, as Alonso reaches 306 kph there before the camera changed. Red Bull into the pits, Perez into the pits. It looks like a slightly lukewarm stop. Yeah, it's not the best, it's not the worst. It's 2.5 seconds from the Red Bull garage as a Ferrari goes by, as Ricciardo goes by, and Perez has dropped out of the points as he has Russell and Stroll here to deal with. Yes, he does have Russell to deal with. And Russell has jumped Perez out of the pits, and Russell is into 11th place behind the McLarens, and unfortunately probably won't do any better. And he will, yeah, more than likely, as Perez is on the hard tires, folks. He's gone onto the hard tires, so a decision has been made at Red Bull for Perez to drop out of the points, to drop out of the top 10, to pit for the medium tires, and obviously he might be able to get back into the top 10 because he has the fastest tires, he has the fastest grippier tire on now. But the main thing will be for him to snatch the fastest lap off Hamilton, which we could see in the next couple of laps as the very man himself. Hamilton goes fastest again, a fastest lap again from Hamilton at 1.13.124. So he has managed to set the fastest lap of the race, go purple again, even though he's complaining about his tires. That could be because he's pushing now, and he knows that if he's pushing like this, he's not going to make it to the end. But of course, he is pushing because he can't close the gap to Max Verstappen at all at the moment. Leclerc and Sainz are both on the hard tire. Are they within a reasonable gap of Hamilton and Bottas, or even Gasly, to take a place or two higher up than they originally were planning? Of course, the Ferraris haven't been challenged by all race by the Alpines behind them, and unfortunately, Yuki Tsunoda, this year's rookie for AlphaTauri, has retired there. He was running quite far behind, so unfortunately for the people that were looking to gain points, Yuki hasn't been running in the points, and they haven't been able to gain a place or two there. Mick Schumacher's on the replay as he has a little bit of a lockup, and he goes down. He doesn't actually make the gravel trap, but he just clips it there as he probably threw a little bit of stuff onto the track. Some pebbles and stuff like that will just slightly decrease grip for a little while if they're on the track. If they're not on the track and it's not too big of a mess, it should be all right. So Hamilton has just gone purple recently in the last couple of laps there, and Norris is looking like he might make a move on Ocon in the next couple of laps or two. Thank you to Amazon for that graphic there coming up. So there hasn't been a safety car as Hamilton's on the radio. Yeah. Hamilton isn't managing to close that gap. It's at 3 seconds. It was at 3 seconds about 8 or 9 laps ago, and he hasn't managed to close that gap. Neither has Bottas. So, yes. No. Yeah, actually, if Gasly has to pit again, and if Bottas is quite safe. Hamilton goes purple in sector 1. Of course, it was Verstappen that responded with a purple sector 2 a couple of laps ago. We'll keep an eye on that. So Gasly might have to pit again, and the two Ferraris are definitely within range of overtaking him. But it'll be interesting to see if they get out. If they don't pit again, the Ferraris, which they won't, if Gasly goes onto a better, newer tire, he will probably be able to overtake them towards the end of the race and retain fourth. Lewis is going flat out here, folks. He's dropped the gap down by about 4/10, but he's on the radio saying that he's using up his tires completely doing this because we've still got a good 20 laps left, and 20 laps that are very hard on the tire because of all the elevation changes and the banks and the fact that you're going quite fast and stuff like that. It does take the life out of the tire slightly quicker than it would in some other tracks. For example, Perez hasn't been able to take that fastest lap off Hamilton yet. He's on the harder tire, of course. Sorry, he's on the softer tire, of course. He's on the red label tire, while Hamilton is on the medium tire, the slightly old medium tire, and he's still managing to keep Perez at bay. So as Hamilton takes another 2/10 off the gap and drops it down to 2.4 seconds, he is still 1.4 seconds out of DRS range, but the risk is ever so slightly there. As Hamilton, he's on the radio. He can't seem to deal with it, can't seem to close the gap. Well, he is pushing now. Is it a classic case of Lewis Hamilton reverse psychology as he brings the gap down to within 2.3 seconds? Bottas is still stagnant at 14 as we see a very high line from Ocon there in the third sector, in the third corner. the first at the bank corners. Gasly is 38 seconds behind the leaders. Sorry, he's 38 seconds behind third place. So almost a half a lap there, more than half a lap behind third place. Bottas is again stagnant, as I said, in third place, not really improving. Ricardo's on the radio. They're trying to hold Ricardo up, but they're trying to hold Perez up. Is Ricardo, but Perez is well within DRS range, and as I said, on the faster tire. Interestingly, if he can get DRS through this lap and get a good tow, he can get a good drag reduction by following the car in front. He will get a little bit. He will get a little bit of a speed boost if he manages to do it correctly. So he could be in a good position to just stay behind the McLarens here for a lap or two, get that tow, and try and use that advantage. As Ricardo kicks up a little bit of dirt there, kicked up a little bit of dirt just to remind Perez that he's keeping an eye on him and stuff like that. So can Perez just keep behind Daniel and use that to his advantage to get a tow and set a fastest lap and take that extra point away from Hamilton? Of course, if he doesn't overtake Ricardo and Perez stays in 11th, even with getting the fastest lap, of course he doesn't get the point for the fastest lap if he's not in the top 10. So a pretty dangerous game of self-sacrifice there. Perez, he was running in 7th, and he pitted again to take on the hard tire, which I can only imagine he's going flat out now to try and get the fastest lap, because eventually his tires will drop off because of the softest, obviously, and they will have a lot less grip towards the end of the race. A lot less grip than than Verstappen will have in his most durable white tires, which he's probably taken care of quite handily now, as the gap has dropped down a little bit more dangerously to Verstappen between Hamilton and himself. The gap has dropped down to 1.2 seconds, and there's definitely a little bit of back markers in the way here. I think that was Kubica in the Alfa Romeo, who didn't hold up the Red Bull of Max Verstappen for very long, and it's already been done, folks. Daniel Ricciardo didn't manage to hold up Perez very, very long because he's got into the top 10 positions again. So now he can get a point for his fastest lap, plus the point or two that he'll get for finishing 10th, and he has a decent gap in front of him to Norris. But of course, Norris's tires are the slower tire. So is there a point there where Perez will be able to push and hopefully get up within DRS? Maybe. We'll keep an eye on that as that develops. Hamilton has dropped back out now to 2 seconds, folks. He's dropped back to a second out of DRS, but he is still dealing with back markers here. Apologies. So very busy track here, unfortunately, for the leaders, as they're going to have to deal with a lot of back markers. Verstappen has 3 cars ahead of him that he's going to have to lap in a couple of laps time, couple of moments time. Verstappen is on the harder, more durable tire, so is still managing to keep his nose in front. Daniel Ricciardo doesn't really have much in response to Perez, as he just goes around the outside quite easily. Perez is on a serious push now. Also somebody that was very good at taking care of their tires, very good at managing a race car and managing good pace to be able to balance it and to go very fast until the end and not run out of juice at the end or not run out of tires at the end. Because I'd say a lap or two on this track with tires with no grip, you could easily spin it on the bank. Anything could happen. So Perez has to just keep an eye on that. But of course, he's pushing now, and that's what we want to see. Hamilton is on the live speed. He's behind. He's about a second and a half behind Verstappen at the moment. He clocks in at 298 kilometers an hour there towards the end of the straight. Of course, Verstappen started in first. Hamilton started in second. Bottas started in third, and Gasly started in fourth. And they have all kept the exact same positions that they had since they started, and they've kept those positions during the race, still in them now. The 2 Ferraris also started in 5th and 6th. They're in their same respective positions. Alonso managed to overtake his teammate at the start and is in 7th. Pretty decent weekend from Alonso altogether. You could argue he still has it, and he's in a decently competitive car. So We have a fastest sector. Hamilton goes purple, sector one yet again. There isn't any change overall on the fastest lap just yet, but Perez could be looking to snatch that as he continues his push before he settles down to take care of his tires for the end of the race. Nice day out there, folks. I hope the weather is good where you are too. 15 laps to go is the notification up on the screen, ladies and gents. 15 laps to go, 1-5. And the gap is still, it has dropped down from 3 seconds. It has dropped down from that critical gap that we mentioned, but is hovering now comfortably about the 1.8 mark behind Verstappen. Is second place Lewis Hamilton. The weather is mighty fine. The weather is mighty fine where I am. The weather is mighty fine at Zandvoort. Of course, the bad memories of the race last week at the washed out race, but the washed out race weekend at Belgium, which has been a risk the last couple of seasons, but we never thought it would absolutely happen, and the race weekend will be over, but it did happen, unfortunately. So we've been rewarded with a decent qualifying, decent race altogether here. Of course, we didn't have too many overtakes, but I hope that didn't take away from your enjoyment of the race today. And we still have a very, very interesting and intensive point left in the race. The last 10 or 15 laps or so can always change a lot of things. Doesn't look like there's going to be any weather changes, but there's going to be some changes in positions, hopefully, as there is still a lot of back markers to deal with. Latifi probably getting overtaken for maybe the 5th or 6th time this race. I'm not sure. I don't know how many times he got overtaken, but it's at least twice. And Hamilton has to deal with that too. Verstappen's tires probably in the window now where they're starting to drop off. He's still got to keep the pace till the end, and Hamilton is just keeping him honest there with about a 1.8 second, a 1.7 to a 1.8 gap there most of the time. Riding on board with Verstappen there, and it doesn't look like he has any tire issues. Doesn't look like he has any issues whatsoever. As we're looking at 12 laps left. Michael Schumacher is not the second place Haas this weekend. He's the first place Haas because he's the only Haas left on the circuit at the moment. Kubica is not in last place, is in second last place, which is admirable for him. Vettel is just in front of him. A miserable weekend altogether for poor old Sebastian Vettel. Giovinazzi 15th, Latifi 14th. Arguably a predictable bottom couple there, apart from Sebastian Vettel, who you thought would have done better. You could say the same for Stroll, who's in 13th. Giovinazzi just overtakes Latifi there for good measure. Russell is outside the points yet again, and Ricciardo's outside the points as well. He is dropped well behind Perez in 10th. Perez, as we said, was pitted and put onto the faster tire to, I assume, take the fastest lap of Hamilton. He hasn't managed to achieve that yet, unfortunately, and probably won't be able to do it since his tires will surely be quite worn at this stage, because they're the weakest tire, and he's been really pushing. So I would imagine that he's probably gone past that point that he can get the fastest lap. So the gap between Leclerc and Gasly is 4 seconds, 4.4. The Sky Sports team is on the airwaves, and they're saying that Ted Kravitz is saying that there could be a little bit of something to watch for towards the end of the race there, as Leclerc goes on a final push. Vettel making moves. He overtakes Latifi to move up into 15th. Giovinazzi, as I said, 14th. Stroll, 13th. Russell, 12th. Ricciardo outside the points. Perez inside the points with 1. Lando Norris inside the points after a pretty lukewarm weekend. Obviously, a miserable weekend for him last week. Ocon in 8th. Alonso in 7th. Ferrari in very decent on their recent form, 5th and 6th. Gasly in a very decent 4th place. 43 seconds behind the last podium position, which is Bottas, who is 18 seconds behind second place. And the gap, you'll be happy to know, Mr. Adam Harrigan has dropped well past 3.5 seconds towards 4 seconds between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. So it's looking like it's going to be a pretty easy day at the office for Red Bull. Of course, no day is easy at the office, and of course, it was a very unpredictable weekend before we came here. We didn't know what was going to happen, but looks like all the intelligent and smart people at Red Bull have done their sums. They cracked out the calculators and they did a bit of match, and they're happy enough with how things have gone so far. They've been managed to run a very smooth race, a very professional race, and they've kept their driver out in front for literally bar a couple of laps when Bottas was ahead, and it looks like he's going to have a little bit of room to breathe now, a little bit of room for error. Not errors exactly, but room just to to enjoy the moment for a bit, perhaps. Stroll outside the points again. It's been quite a while since he's really done anything noteworthy on a race weekend the last couple of months. Unfortunately, not a great weekend for Russell. He didn't manage to have any kind of glimmers of hope there. Same with Bottas, very lukewarm again. So the rumors going around is that Christian Horner went and said congratulations. He was spotted saying congratulations to George at some point over the weekend, and people have read into that thinking that he said congratulations on your new deal, as George Russell seems to be under pressure here from Lance Stroll. Verstappen's on the radio. It's just confirmation there of Hamilton dropping back further. We've 10 laps to go, and it's looking like it's going to be a comfortable win for Verstappen. Have we reached the end of the Mercedes era, folks? Is this the exact turning point that we can confidently say the Red Bull has managed to comfortably outmuscle the Mercedes the last couple of weeks? The team seems very confident, very confident and very relaxed and controlled on the pit wall there. In the critical laps of the race towards the end, it seems like they are just waiting to bring their driver home, as the prayers are being said in Mercedes to see if there's any chance that they can manage to change the outcome of this race with just a couple of laps to go. Perez was right behind Lando Norris there as he goes on the hunt to take another grid position or two higher up the grid if he can manage it. Lando Norris, last lap. Lando, as I mentioned earlier on in the race, what does he have up his sleeve? He's been on the hard tire for quite a while now, so the grip obviously will start to drop off for him pretty soon if it hasn't dropped off already, but maybe he has enough in it to hold on towards the end of the lap. Surely Sergio Perez's tires must be pretty worn as well, since he's on the weakest tire, the more grippy, but the weakest tire, the softest tire. And, he might have one or two late darts, but I'd imagine most of his grip, most of his ability to overtake has probably passed him at this stage. But you never know, one or two late lunges and a bit of DRS here and there, and you would fancy Perez to have a go, as he has a look into the first corner, but just a look and nothing more. Just a look and nothing more from Perez there. But again, if you can manage to string a good couple of corners together and Lando's grip levels have dropped off, it would be great to see. Perez get another point or two. The Lando fans probably don't want that. They're probably holding their breath at this moment in time. I'm a Lando fan too. I really like Lando, but I think Perez deserves to get as many points as possible because he's done a great job today, and he made a great decision for the team there to pit and take on unless that was their original plan, which it could have been. Their plan could have been to pit anyway and go on the soft tires towards the end, but you would want to do that a couple of laps later, I'd say, just so you have a little bit more grip. And Perez will surely be starting to fade. His grip levels will start to fade soon. But as he gets a decent exit now out of the last corner, and he's in a great position here. He's got good DRS, and he's well closer to him earlier on in the straight, but he doesn't have a look there at all, and that'll probably be how it stays until the end of the race, unless Lando encounters more problems. The gap at the front has stayed the same. Alonso is having a look at signs now, of all people. Leclerc hasn't managed to close the gap between Gasly. The gap has dropped out to 6.8 seconds. It was 4 seconds a couple of laps ago, but now Leclerc is a solid 7 seconds behind Gasly. So Gasly looking very comfortable there to take a very decent haul of points again from Pierre Gasly and obviously guarantee his seat for next season. So one Spanish uh, one Spaniard against the other Spaniard, one with 2 world championships, the other with none. Not even a race win under his belt has Carlos Sainz yet, but he does drive for the almighty Tifosi favorite. He does drive for the red car on the grid, which is obviously the most famous and obviously the most rich in history. None other than the Scuderia Ferrari F1 team. And he is the person who you would say is in the stronger car and has been on a pretty decent run of form. But what can the mightily experienced Alonso do in the last couple of laps to possibly uh, rob a place there and outmuscle Carlos Sainz? Because in the last couple of races or the last couple of times they've had a coming together on the track, Sainz has managed to pip Alonso. So Alonso will have the bit between his teeth, I'm sure. Perez is under pressure as Norris. Sorry, excuse me. Perez has gone through on Norris. We missed it on the television there because they were showing some pointless replay of something else. But Norris has dropped behind Perez. Perez got the jump on him. Perez is through to ninth now, and Perez is fifth in the overall driver standings. Bottas has overtaken Norris for third, and Norris drops back to fourth, with Leclerc up 10 points into sixth place. The gap is still 3.7 seconds out of the front. And we finally have a replay of Perez on the outside, of course. That's where he's overtaken the last couple of laps. He's overtaken a couple of cars in a very similar way. And I would imagine, oh, he's not happy. He's not happy. And there was contact. Of course, we don't see it because the cameramen on F1 TV are usually quite useless. Perez, it was a very late move from Lando Norris as they went into the first corner. Perez hung it around the outside. He had the race in line, and there was a late move originally to close the door from Lando Norris, and he still parked his car on the graduating line to the left onto the racing line. He's going to say he had the racing line, but there was a heavy bit of contact there. Perez kept his foot in. Maybe Lando Norris backed off there, knowing that he was a little bit dirty, and Perez should have really taken that position, and he'd let him through. As will we see the stewards look at that? I doubt it. Jenson Button, I think, said there that it was a racing incident, and I would usually take his word for it. Okay. And Bottas is in a race of his own, so much to the point that he is going to pit here to try and take the fastest lap off Lewis Hamilton. This is a bit of a surprise because Alonso's having a look now at Sainz as they're overtaking a back marker. Alonso's right behind Sainz in the first corner. Can he get a good release into the second and third corner? Into the third corner for the banking. Will he take a high line? He will take a high line, but the Ferrari also takes a high line as Giovinazzi or Kubica there. I'm not quite sure who it is, but obviously languishing back there in the last couple of positions. Adam Hargan is confident about Verstappen driver of the day. I haven't seen the numbers, Adam. I'm not able to comment on that at the moment. If you have any information on that, please don't hesitate to let me know. There is 3 laps left. We are on lap 69, ladies and gentlemen. The gap is 3.3 seconds from Verstappen to Hamilton. Bottas is still in the top 3 after his pit stop. He is looking to take on the softest tires, which I imagine he's already taken them on. And he will be hoping to set fastest lap here to take a point. I'd imagine he'll be taking. Yes, they're gone on to the softest tire, and they had a slow stop there. So luckily it wasn't too tight at the front, and luckily they didn't have to get a very quick stop there. They could afford to have a slow stop because they did screw that up again. So not the best in terms of pit stops today. Precautionary stop there is the word from the pit wall, as Hamilton can't manage to close the gap. We're going to be going on to the 70th lap of 72 in the Dutch GP 2021, folks. And Max Verstappen will take yet another win. 6 pole positions and 6 wins this year, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, 6 pole positions for sure. Not sure about the wins. But he's got 3 laps to go for sure. And the top 10 has remained pretty much unchanged the last couple of laps. Perez has managed to sneak into 9th. Obviously, a very good race for him overall, starting from the pit lane. Not the worst. Unfortunately, he didn't get the fastest lap off Hamilton. Hamilton could go fastest again if he pits. He's got a gap of 50 or so seconds to third place, which is monumental, really. Bottas is Bottas has pitted in order to get the fastest lap and get a point, but of course he's been told by the Mercedes team, because he is the number 2 driver, do not take that off your teammate. But Bottas might not have listened, because he goes purple. He went purple first sector. And he's a new lap record. Well, of course it's a new lap record, because they haven't raced here in 35 years, Tom, and that's just the fastest lap of the day. But it's a 1:12.5. It's quite far off qualifying pace, you have to say. And Hamilton is into the pits. Obviously, he's not going to lap. He needs that extra point. He's come into the pits. He's got things to do. His brakes are smoking hot, ladies and gentlemen. As he came into the pits there, he was obviously pushing. He goes onto the softest tire left. He has one try after this outlap to get this point. What can we see from Hamilton? Can he set the track on fire with an extremely fastest lap? His teammate Valtteri Bottas has set the new lap record with a 1:12. What can Hamilton do? Obviously, he won't set the fastest lap on this lap. He needs to go around and cross the start-finish line and then go for 10. But it's all about this man at the front here, ladies and gentlemen. 24 seconds ahead. It doesn't matter to him that Hamilton pitted again, because Max Verstappen is just going to enjoy every moment of this. He's out in front. He's got 1 lap left after this. The pyrotechnics have started, but the wind is going away from the track, hopefully. I'd say the majority of fans will be having... We'll have the fireworks out now in a couple of moments' time. We're about a minute and 12 or 15 seconds away from another Max Verstappen win, which will put him firmly in front, and I believe at least 1 race win ahead in terms of total points, ahead of Lewis Hamilton in the championship standings. The pyrotechnics are already in the chat. We might have to have a couple... Can I put a W in? We might have to put a W in for Max Verstappen. Not quite yet, though. Hamilton hasn't come up any purple sectors. Maybe I missed them. If anybody's seen there, if there was a purple sector, I'll get ready. But I didn't see a purple first sector from Hamilton. I didn't see a purple sector. He might not be around yet. Tom, calm down. And it's only a couple of corners left. He's into the stadium section. Max Verstappen, the still very young Max Verstappen, and the absolutely potentially world championship driver that he is at such a young age, and the gradual increase. There's pyrotechnics on the track, but the crowd doesn't care. It's the last couple of corners. Russell's in the pits for some reason. Why else would he go into the pits to retire? Surely he should have stayed out there. And it's Max Verstappen around the last corner, the last bank corner, one of the only bank corners on the F1 calendar this year. It's his home Grand Prix. Turn up the volume to Max, because it is Max Verstappen, race winner, 72 laps. Red Bull said they could turn up and get the job done this weekend, and they absolutely did. There hasn't been any purple sectors from Hamilton to get that fastest lap. I don't think he's got the fastest lap. Has he gotten? He goes purple in the last sector, and he gets that race win as he secures that extra point. Brilliant stuff from Hamilton. Yeah, you got to say he is the GOAT. One of the top 3 for sure this year. All the points go, the major points go to Verstappen, but Mercedes managed to make sure that Verstappen only gains 5 points on them through that race result, because obviously 6 point difference from first and second, with the fastest lap, it's just a 5 point difference. So Hamilton minimizing the damage there that Max Verstappen can do. But for the first race in the Netherlands in 35 years, it's a dream scenario. It's a dream weekend for Dutch driver Max Verstappen as he now leads the championship and he will take the podium, the top step of the podium at his home Grand Prix. Well, folks, I think that might be time. I think that might be time to sit back and have an old shopping of some nice Dutch beer that I got in a nice Dutch shop. Take the shirt off and relax in the casual Netherlands t-shirt and enjoy the driver's press conference. Please don't forget to check out the channel and all our socials at F1 TV Era. Hopefully next week I'll have the for Monza I'll have the OBS system working. Unfortunately, it seems to be quite laggy on the cameras over here. It seems to be quite laggy on my computer, so I don't want to have really bad laggy video, even if it is quite good quality. But hopefully you enjoyed the stream here. Thanks to Adam and Le Mans for the sub. Thanks to Adam for the messages. Folks, enjoy your weekend. Don't be afraid to have a drink. I will see you in the next one.